I'm here with Sandy Powell. You've been nominated for 8 Oscars and you won 2. That's pretty damn good. Shakespeare in Love and The Aviator. Now, is it true that you had $2 million to work with on The Aviator? Is that the biggest budget you've ever had?
Comes from. No, I don't think it was as much as that. That's gone up. That rumour. And do you know what? I can't remember what it was. I think it was more likely between 1 and 1.5. I mean, I don't even think it is as far as 1.5. I think it was more likely to be about 1 million.
Okay,
I cannot remember.
That's interesting. So, was that the biggest budget you ever had to work with?
I believe so, actually. Yeah, but it was quite a big movie. Gangs of New York. Do you know what? I never found out what the end budget was. I mean, we started off with one thing, and the thing about Gangs of New York was over the year it grew and it grew and it grew. And
because that would be, I would have to think, the most intensely period thing. I mean, you've done a lot.
Yeah, I'd say Gangs of New York, we produced the most costumes ever.
Because there were so many extras.
And they were nearly all builds. I mean, we made thousands, literally thousands. And working in Italy was quite an experience, and I just never the extras costumes were made sort of in another part of the studio from where I was working with. Oh no, we got a sound check. I never found out what the end amount was, what that came out.
But that would have been your most ambitious movie
in terms of building.
So you think of Young Victoria as a small film?
It was a small film with a couple of big scenes. I mean, okay, a lot of costumes, but it was a sort of smallish budget film.
And do you remember what the budget for the costumes was? It was relatively small for you?
It wasn't ridiculously small, but it wasn't one of those big ones. And now, again, I cannot remember in dollars what it would have been. It might have been around $400,000, something like that.
No, that gave you something to work with,
yeah.
Definitely. All right, but on the biggest day, on the biggest, most challenging day, I guess I want to give a sense of the scale of what you have to do. Yeah. You have a number of costumers, and you have a number. They're the ones who are actually keeping track of all the clothes.
They're the people. I mean, the biggest days usually involve lots of extras that have to go through hair and makeup and get ready. So the people who organise that are my supervisor, who then organises a team of people who have to get in at the crack of dawn. I mean, those guys start work at 4 o'clock in the morning or something ridiculous.
So your responsibility is to design the costume, make sure it looks fabulous on the actress, fit the actress or whoever,
and
make sure that the director likes
and oversee the extras. I mean, another department will do all the extras fittings, and I'll either be at the fittings if I can, but generally I'm not there because it takes days and days and days to fit extras. But I see photographs of all the fittings, and I'll go, well, I don't like that, do like that, change that, tweak that, and then when they're all dressed on the day, I'll go and have a look at everybody before they go to the set. So on a big day, I will be there on the set, checking everything looks okay, checking my actors look all right, and once they're okay, I don't hang around the set much, actually.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense.
There's usually something else more important to do.
Yeah. So of all the movies you've done, what would have been the most monstrous, just extraordinarily difficult?
Gangs of New York.
Yeah. And
it was incredibly good fun as well. I mean, looking back on it, it was a big nightmare a lot of the time. But even through the nightmares, it was an amazing experience. But that was relentless. I mean, that really was almost a year of constantly producing hundreds of costumes, and then they would wear out, so you'd be replacing them. They were just in constant use.
And you also had action sequences with blood and all that.
So, I mean, it just was non-stop.
So
it was like a factory of things just constantly being made, and then having to think up new ideas and new ways of doing things. And
so when you have a visual effect and you have a special effect and you have blood and gore and you have to have several different costumes to cover it, because you have to do it over and you have to do it over again. Explain
and even with extras we had to have stuntmen and extras. You just have hundreds of things.
So you would have racks and now I was at this Clint Eastwood thing the other night, and there was a film that Richard Chickle had done, and they went to a storage facility at Warner Brothers that had all the costumes saved from all of Clint Eastwood's films, and the woman was just going through and saying, this is from this film and this is from that. Do you have all of the costumes saved somewhere?
Oh, and I wish I did. You know what is sad is that a lot of them get lost. I mean, quite often what happens at the end of a film, or what used to happen at the end of the film, is the production need to make back some money. So all the costumes that have been made, which they then own, they try to sell. They and quite often they sell them to costume houses who then incorporate them into their stock, and then they get rented out onto other productions. So quite often you see your costumes turning up on somebody else's film, on another act, which is quite funny. And that's how they replenish their stock, by buying. In the past, some companies archive and do keep their costumes all together. And then sometimes they're just sold off on eBay. I mean, quite often things are just, the minute the film comes out, they're just sold to collectors and on eBay, and they just disperse. Now, I have tried over the years to sort of keep 1 or 2 costumes from each film. Obviously, I have to ask permission to do that because they're not mine to keep. And I have got my own little collection, but it's not. I mean, I do wonder where they all go, and it's a shame that they get broken up.
Now, you worked with Harvey Weinstein and Miramax for
Yes,
many years.
yes.
You must have some mixed feelings about the fact that that company is no more.
Oh, well, I mean,
And you have a film that is coming up, isn't it? The Tempest?
Yes, yes.
That Miramax
yes.
is going to release?
Yes, yeah.
The Julie Taymor?
No, I mean, I think Harvey Weinstein actually was one of the people that archived everything. They kept, when they were Miramax, they had all the Gangs of New York, they had Wings of the Dove, they had Velvet Goldmine, they had, and films are not mine, they had Chicago and a whole bunch of films they had archived, and they had somebody there whose job it was to look after everything, and it was cared for fantastically. When they parted company with Disney, they sold the whole lot. The whole lot had to be sold, and so the whole collection was broken up and sold, which was tragic, actually. It really was.
No, I'm sad about it. I'm
Yeah.
sad about it. What do you know about how The Tempest is going to turn out?
I saw a version of it. I saw a cut-together version without all the finished music and sound on it, and it looks really interesting. I can't wait to see it finished.
What can you tell us about the kind of designs that you had to do on that one?
That one's a strange one.
It's
Shakespeare,
not, but it's
Shakespeare,
not.
but it's not set in any period except Julie's reference for the court. The courtiers was Spanish 17th century, a bit Valesca. So they're a little bit Valesca, but with a modern twist. It's sort of 17th century with a twist. The people on the island, Prospera, we have a Prospera and not a Prospero.
Helen Mirren.
Miranda, yeah, and Caliban. Another whole look. They're in their own little world. So it's not contemporary, but it's not period.
What's it like working with her?
Oh, I loved it. I mean, again, she's very visual. I mean, she's a designer. I thought that could be a problem. I mean, it could have been a problem. It could have been a problem being a designer for a designer because, she would always know how she would do it herself if she was doing it. But actually, it worked out really well.
Very creative.
Oh, God, yes. Yeah. So she understands the process. And she does understand. If you can say, look, I really don't think I can do this. This is not going to work. She can understand why, having been through it all herself.